Right.
We are back. I'm going to take it to Peanut Gallery, control the photos, and him discussing what he's going to discuss. So, Peanut Gallery, take it away.
All right. So, our topic is going to be the seriously unstable side of CMLL. And the reason I want to talk about this is because CMLL is very well known for being the serious and the stable, referencing their very conservative booking style and their traditional structures to how wrestlers are used and allowed to express themselves. Outside television broadcast, CMLL has not shown matches where one of the competitors bleeds. They have a few steel cage matches on occasion. There have been Super Libre matches where there are no disqualifications, but otherwise do not promote a wide variety of such contests.
Yep.
CMLL has on occasion fired wrestlers for excessive violence, like the use of chairs during a match or where profanity is being used while addressing the crowd during a show.
Wait, shoot? Like they actually fired people for doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't storyline.
No, they actually fired people for literally like cussing.
Jesus.
Yeah. But there's a reason that they've been around for as long as they have, and it goes down to the fact that what their formula has obviously worked in that culture for a long time and continues to do so. They're still the biggest wrestling promotion out there.
Well, they're the oldest.
They're the biggest wrestling promotion in Mexico.
Oh, most certainly. Yeah.
In that area, though they're not the biggest wrestling promotion today. We obviously know who that is. So people look at AAA. They're split in the 90s, but it wasn't the first time that someone split over creative differences. In 1975, Francisco Flores, along with EMLL, which was the name of the company at that point in time, trainer Ray Mendoza, broke away, citing their displeasure with EMLL's conservative, restrictive promotional style. And they took a bunch of young EMLL wrestlers with them.
Right.
Gee, wonder, it's just a pattern that's going to continue to exist, I think, for EMLL,
most certainly.
CMLL. And so what they founded the what was called the Universal Wrestling Association, which actually existed until 1995.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so what it was, it had, it obviously had those more hardcore style matches, younger talent, more expression sort of thing. They had working agreements with wrestling promotions in the United States and in Japan, such as New Japan Pro Wrestling, World Wrestling Federation, and Japan Women's Pro Wrestling. In 1974, Empresa Mexicana, so EMLL founder and owner Salvador Lutterworth Gonzalez brought his son into the promotion, grooming him to take over when Lutterworth Sr. eventually had to retire. This action, combined with a very rigid and conservative promotional philosophy, led EMLL's promoter in Nucalpan, Mexico State, Francisco Flores, and Ray Mendoza to break away from the EMLL and create UWA.
You remember it's the opposite there,
right?
No, like
so it's kind of interesting, and what I find most interesting is that it actually began literally in like a wrestling school, like in a gym, and it expanded to become this huge force, and again, what made it so different, so unique, was not just the style, but the booking philosophy. And I think this is a theme amongst Mexican promotions.
Right.
Is that it very broadly splits over creative differences. You don't see a lot of that in other areas of the world. Not to the extent that this happens.
Right.
You see a lot of it's competition, but maybe not necessarily because of it. It's not so black and white as it is in Mexico.
Right.
In Mexico, you either have the extreme stuff or you have the very conservative stuff. You don't see a lot of stuff in the middle.
Right.
A lot of that stuff, I think, is more... And I think that harkens back to the culture of Mexico as well.
It's a very traditional culture.
Where Mexico has very traditional sense And then they also have this very creative sense, and you have to have a mix of both.
Right.
But in the wrestling world, you just can't seem to have it.
Right.
So, you know, the UWA, they have a very long and storied history. I'm not going to go into
It might be
too
for
much
right.
of the history of the UWA, maybe for a more throwbacky sort of thing. But I do want to talk about what happened in the 1990s, because in the 1990s, 3 different things happened. The UWA collapsed,
Yep.
and the UWA was a place where a lot of main event wrestlers in the 90s got their start, like El Connect, now considered a legend in Lucha Libre. And it helped popularize the match format that is now most common in Mexico, which is the best 2 out of 3 fall 6-man tag team match or trios match. So this was they actually were the originators of the trios matches.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even know that. That's neat. And now it's such a prevalent thing in like amongst the world are 6 trios matches.
Right. And so other promotions were starting to heavily promote the trios matches. Now, what happened in the 90s was, you know, there isn't a lot. I guess what really happened was the rise of AAA really kind of put UWA on the back burner.
Right.
And so what you saw was, again, you have Antonio Pena coming in as a booker. Mm-hmm. And he would clash with Juan Herrera, who was the other main booker for CMLL at the time. Herrera wanted to maintain the old style of booking, and Pena wanted to feature younger, faster-moving wrestlers.
In more of a spot festy-esque kind of way.
And so in the end, CMLL owner Paco Alonso decided to go with Herrera's booking style. After Paco Alonso chose to ignore Pena's booking ideas, Pena began negotiations with Televisa television channel to fund a new wrestling promotion. He would start
AAA.
Asistencia Asesoría y Administración AAA promotion.
How the Spanish words that you know and what you can't pronounce is so interesting.
So again, it created this very long-running rivalry with CMLL that continues to this day. Now, as far as UWA is concerned, the reason that they started going down was because of the fact that several of their top wrestlers left the company in the 1990s, the early 1990s, to go back to CMLL because they just
CMLL just had more money too, and they had a lot more publicity, so they were probably making more money.
Right. And so CMLL and UWA then started doing bookings together, and I think this was part of that downfall.
Right.
And, you know, again, in 1992, when
you have a clash of styles of booking.
And when 1992, when AAA came in, you know, you have now another new promotion.
And a promotion with some money behind it, too.
Right. And the UWA was forced to cease because the peso at the time lost all of its value.
Right.
Back in the 90s. And it just crashed. That was it. They had no money left.
Right.
So I find it very interesting, and I think this highlights one of the flaws of Mexican wrestling in general. And I don't think that's anything to do with the wrestlers.
I think it's a cultural thing.
I think it has to do with the culture.
Now, we're not saying that it's bad.
No,
we're just saying
it's not.
that I would say that a promotion like CMLL would not have existed as long as it has in America.
Right.
There's no way.
No, there's no way. What happens, I think this is very unique amongst Mexican culture as far as professional wrestling promotions are concerned. Because you go to places like New Japan or you go places like Japan or America. People leave and start new promotions all the time over creative differences.
Right.
I mean, that's how AEW was formed. That's how That's how New Japan Pro Wrestling was formed. That's how All Japan Pro Wrestling was formed.
And then there was the Inoki Guillaume Federation. That started with creative differences.
Yep. A lot of promotions and even Capital Wrestling Corporation started with creative differences.
Yeah, even though they still had a good relationship with them, they had their little empire within themselves.
Yep.
So why would would you be a part of an organization that doesn't make any sense?
Right. So it's very common to have, like, people leaving and going to other wrestling promotions for creative differences.
Right.
But I think there's something different about Mexican wrestling where these two worlds, it's almost like you have two different worlds of wrestling.
And that's why I love covering Mexican wrestling. It's such a different.
You look at a CML match, you look at a AAA match.
Right.
They're totally different matches.
Mm-hmm.
You would think there's no way that's the same.
It doesn't even look like it's from the same country.
Right, and that's what I'm talking. Yeah, that's what I was gonna get at. It's like it doesn't look like it's even from the same country.
Right.
And I find it really interesting that that is the way in Mexico that has evolved. It obviously works
on both ends.
Mm-hmm. You have these two completely different styles of Mexican wrestling. And so I think it's a very interesting case study to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't compare it to any other rivalry of, like, country wrestling promotions. You know, maybe WCW and WWF at the very beginning, but even then, once they became more mainstream, their styles almost became indistinguishable from one another.
Yep, exactly.
Same thing with TNA. They might have been a little Southern-style wrestling, but it, again, just evolved into something that's more mainstream.
Actually, that's another great one that we can even discuss further.
Yeah.
Southern-style wrestling to Northern wrestling.
Right.
So, essentially, what we're seeing is that dynamic.
Yep.
20, 30 years after.
It still exists. In this world where things are becoming so open and so commoditized and so media frenzy, whatever, that you would expect these Mexican styles to start adopting start to adopt each other's wrestling styles, but that just doesn't happen. So, anyways, that's all I have. Do you have anything to add?
No, I thought it was really great. I like the fact that this new company, the UWA, were the people who really popularized and really put a lot of emphasis in trios wrestling.
Yep.
I guarantee you it happened before that, but they really probably put a lot of emphasis.
It was their biggest draw at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Yep. That's cool. Anyway, so when we come back, we're going to be talking about the history of Rey de Reyes.
All right.